Not every game needs $1 million budget to be unforgettable. Amidst the noise of big productions, there are smaller games, often overlooked, that stand out for their creativity, personality, and courage to do things differently. These are games made with soul, built on bold ideas, memorable worlds, and sharp mechanics, without relying on worn-out formulas. They don't get the spotlight, but when you find one, it feels like uncovering a well-kept secret. In this list, you'll discover hidden AA games that offer so much more than many big-budget titles out there. I'm Jax, and if you're new here, welcome to the Play Hunters channel. I bring daily content to make sure you don't miss any detail from the gaming universe. And if you could subscribe to help me grow, I'd be really happy, gamer to gamer. In first place, we have a game that places you in the middle of a zombie apocalypse. No superpowers, no infinite ammo, just fear, strategy, and raw survival. Into the Dead Our Darkest Days is a side-scrolling survival game set in 1980, in a Texan town overtaken by collapse. Here, every step weighs heavily, every decision could cost a life, and a happy ending isn't easy to come by. You lead survivors on the run, searching for shelter, resources, and safe routes while the dead pile up, inside and outside the doors. The visuals are dark and detailed, with an emphasis on emergent storytelling. Nothing is handed to you. You'll need to explore houses, search for food, make tough moral choices, and decide when it's time to leave someone behind. Combat is tense and scarce, and progression happens through decisions, not wild upgrades. The game stands out by not trying to be more than it needs to be. It's contained, direct, and brutally effective in everything it sets out to do. Unlike the blockbuster apocalypses that deliver explosions and heroism, Our Darkest Days throws horror straight in your face and asks how far you'll go to keep someone alive. The tension comes from silence, the lack of resources, and the unpredictability of encounters. And when you find yourself calculating how many cans of food are worth one character's life, you realize the game has gone way beyond shooting and running. It doesn't just compete with the big names, it disturbs you, and that's what makes it impressive. In second place, we have a game that proves how a smaller studio can deliver magic, emotion, and refined combat without relying on super productions. Kena Bridge of Spirits immediately impresses with its cinematic animation-like visuals, but it's much more than just aesthetics. The story follows a spiritual guide on a journey through an enchanted world ravaged by pain and forgotten memories. It's a touching narrative, full of tender moments, yet filled with challenging confrontations that demand focus and reflexes. The world is semi-open, with interconnected areas that encourage exploration and reward curiosity. The small rots, creatures that accompany you, are not only adorable, but also essential to combat and environmental puzzles. Movement is fluid, the environments are varied and full of personality, and progression is smart. The game doesn't overinflate, doesn't waste time, it just delivers what matters with a well-paced rhythm. Combat, while simple in structure, is direct and appropriately challenging. Bosses require pattern reading, tactical use of abilities, and mastery of dodges. Kena gets it right by keeping everything clean and polished without sacrificing emotion. It's a game about loss, reconciliation, and respect for nature, and it does this with a lightness that contrasts with many of the noisy AAA titles out there. When it ends, you feel that pleasant emptiness, a sign that it was more than just beautiful, it was impactful. In third place, we have a game that trades subtlety for impact, turning every strike into a statement. Evil West doesn't come to have a conversation. It blends Western, horror, and sci-fi into a setting infested with grotesque vampires and mutated monsters, all within a direct, brutal, and highly satisfying combat system. The story follows a creature hunter amid a conspiracy that mixes politics, dark science, and blood. While the plot is simple, it knows how to keep the pace high from start to finish. The level design is linear with strategic freedom. You move through well-defined paths, but always with arenas that encourage creative use of weapons and abilities. The arsenal is varied and fun, combining classic pistols with arcane technology, along with a devastating electric punch that becomes the signature of combat. The game focuses on fast-paced hand-to-hand combat, full of combos, counterattacks, and finishers that don't hold back on stylized violence. Although not open world, Evil West delivers the intensity that many bigger games lack. No inflated systems or generic missions. Everything is streamlined, well-constructed, and focused on non-stop action. The atmosphere also deserves a mention, blending the Wild West with a gothic aesthetic and grotesque creatures that fill the screen. It's the kind of game that doesn't try to reinvent anything. It just executes with force, style, and no fluff. And that alone puts it ahead of many AAA titles. In fourth place, we have a game that relies on style, atmosphere, and cinematic execution to tell a story of honor and sacrifice. Trek to Yomi is a love letter to classic samurai cinema, with black and white visuals, fixed camera angles, and art direction inspired by Japanese films. The narrative follows a warrior seeking redemption after the destruction of his village, told with simplicity but heavy with symbolism and emotional weight. Combat is direct, technical, and methodical. No frantic combos. Focus is on precision, timing your blocks, and counterattacks. Each fight demands concentration and patience, turning simple encounters into choreographed duels. As the story progresses, new enemies and supernatural challenges emerge, and the game starts to play with elements of myth and spirituality, further elevating the tone of the journey. Though linear, Trek to Yomi fully immerses you with its unique presentation and commitment to style. Each scene feels like a living painting, with carefully crafted lighting and environments that tell a story even without dialogue. It's not a long game, but it's the kind that stays in your memory for the care given to every detail. Instead of overloading with mechanics, it focuses on identity, and that's more than enough to leave a mark. In fifth place, we have a game that turns dirty work into one of the most engaging and relaxing experiences of recent times. Hardspace Shipbreaker puts you in the role of a space shipbreaker, tasked with cutting, separating, and recovering materials from massive abandoned hulls in orbit. The premise seems simple, but it quickly reveals itself as a three-dimensional puzzle where every mistake can cause an explosion, cut off oxygen, or end your shift catastrophically. The zero-gravity environment is more than just scenery, it's part of the challenge. Controlling your body in space, handling tools with precision, and figuring out how to dismantle a structure without destroying its value creates a unique rhythm. There's no combat, no rush, just concentration. The ships vary in size, complexity, and hidden traps, and with each new mission, you need to understand what's in front of you before taking action. It's a game of observation, patience, and learning. The narrative comes subtly through messages, contracts, and the work environment of an interplanetary company that clearly doesn't care about its employees. Social commentary is there, but never forced. It's felt in the rhythm, the objectives, the debt that never ends. Hardspace impresses not by shouting, but by making you stay silent, floating among the debris, try to solve an engineering problem with a cutting torch and nerves of steel. In sixth place, we have a game where every fight feels like a life-or-death duel, with ferocity, precision, and plenty of weight. Tales of Iron is a 2D action RPG with a handcrafted art style, putting you in the shoes of a rat prince trying to reclaim his kingdom from the clutches of brutal warrior frogs. It might seem simple, but what the game delivers goes way beyond the fairy tale aesthetic. It's challenging, technical, and surprisingly dense, with a world that breathes through hand-drawn art and a compelling narrative. The combat system recalls the best of the Souls-like genre, adapted to a side-scrolling plane. Dodging at the right moment, precise blocking, smart use of weapons, and reading enemy patterns are essential. Brutality is present in every strike, and the sense of victory after defeating a boss is always earned. Weapons and armor influence your playstyle and the weight of your movements, forcing you to adapt and choose equipment wisely for each situation. Despite its almost childlike appearance, Tales of Iron doesn't take it easy. It challenges you to master every mechanic and rewards the attentive player. The world is cohesive, with villages, battlefields, and ruins marked by little details that tell stories without needing much text. It's a game that surprises by not underestimating its own potential. It delivers an intense, honest adventure with no fluff, where combat is king and every victory feels like a real achievement. In seventh place, we have a game that embraces the weight of existence in a broken, challenging world, where every move requires caution and every enemy poses a real threat. Mortal Shell follows the tradition of punishing action RPGs, but does so with its own identity. The concept revolves around shells, the bodies of fallen warriors that you can wear as armor, defining your attributes and combat style. This completely changes how you play, forcing you to experiment and adapt your approach constantly. The world is dark, hostile, and mysterious. Nothing is explained directly, and understanding what's happening requires observation, trial, and error. The setting relies on forgotten ruins, foggy swamps, and suffocating temples, all filled with grotesque creatures and brutal challenges. The map structure favors non-linear exploration, with hidden secrets and shortcuts rewarding curiosity and persistence. Combat is methodical and tense, focusing on endurance, rhythm, and the creative use of the game's main mechanic, the ability to harden your body to block attacks, even in the middle of a strike. This opens up unique possibilities and strategies that stray from the traditional. Mortal Shell may be leaner in content compared to genre giants, but it compensates with style, consistency, and a smart approach that treats every duel as a moment of pure tension. In eighth place, we have a game where a magical but unstable open world constantly challenges your choices and adaptability. Ravenbound combines fast-paced action with a roguelike structure in a Nordic fantasy setting, filled with mythical creatures and cursed locations. You play as a vessel of an ancient entity, reborn with each attempt on a map that changes how it reacts to your progress. The goal is to defeat the corrupted guardians, but the path to them is anything but predictable. Movement is fluid, with dynamic combat based on dodges, quick attacks, and strategic use of cards. Yes, cards that represent skills, equipment, and upgrades. These cards are obtained as you explore and defeat enemies, creating a progression system that blends luck and strategy. This adds a layer of unpredictability. No attempt is the same as the last, and success depends as much on your execution as on managing risks. Despite its roguelike structure, Ravenbound presents a true open world that invites constant exploration. You can choose where to go, which enemies to face, and which regions to investigate, all of which directly influence what you can use in future battles. The visual style is unique, with environments that blend natural beauty with an ever-present sense of corruption lurking nearby. It's a game that doesn't hold your hand. It lets you loose in the world and watches how you handle the freedom and danger, pushing you as far as you can go. In ninth place, we have a game that blends grotesque horror, isometric action, and a world plagued by disease and madness. Morbid the Seven Acolytes is a dark action RPG where everything seems to come from an anatomical nightmare. You face religious aberrations, deformed monsters, and minions of evil entities on a solitary journey through corrupted, decaying regions. The story is told in fragments, leaving you to piece together the puzzle between brutal fights and scraps of text left by survivors or victims. Combat is the heart of the game, rough, punishing, and technical. Dodging, managing stamina, choosing the right moment to strike, all of it matters. The wide variety of weapons with distinct styles forces you to experiment until you find the ideal combination. Each boss is a test of endurance and pattern recognition, with grotesque designs that add personality and weight to the battles. Dying is part of the process, and every defeat teaches you something new about the enemies and how the game thinks. The pixel art is detailed and filled with grotesque elements. Abandoned cities, corrupted swamps, and desecrated temples create a dark, hostile world full of symbolism. The atmosphere is strengthened by a soundtrack that blends tension, melancholy, and an uncomfortable silence that weighs heavily on you. Morbid goes beyond brutal action. It builds a sick mythology that grips you through its strangeness and brutality, never easing up. In 10th place, we have a game that pulls you into the depths with a suffocating atmosphere and a narrative told through images, sensations, and forgotten echoes. Silt is an underwater exploration adventure where silence speaks louder than any dialogue. You control a lone diver capable of possessing sea creatures, using their abilities to solve puzzles and advance through a dark ocean, populated by monsters and colossal structures that feel like they're straight out of a surreal nightmare. The focus is on atmosphere and puzzles. Each new area requires observation and creativity, using the unique abilities of marine creatures to open paths, activate mechanisms, or escape threats. Progression is fluid, with no cluttered HUD or intrusive tutorials. Everything is communicated through the environment and the world's response to your presence. The game makes you feel the weight of pressure, the slowness of water, and the risk lurking in every dark corner. The monochromatic aesthetic reinforces the strangeness of the world, with strokes that resemble hand-drawn illustrations. Bizarre creatures, forgotten sculptures, and submerged ruins silently tell a story, filled with symbolism and melancholy. Silt doesn't try to impress with speed or explosions, but with a morbid beauty that keeps you submerged, curious, and always a little uncomfortable. It's a short journey, but so dense that it feels longer, and when it ends, you still feel the chill of that world on your back. In 11th place, we have a game that delivers brutal action, a decaying atmosphere, and a challenging structure in a universe where everything seems on the brink of collapse. Bleak Faith Forsaken throws you into a corrupted open world, dominated by colossal architecture, biomechanical beings, and an atmosphere of pure desolation. The story is mysterious and told indirectly, leaving you to make sense of it for fragments and interpretations. The game doesn't hold your hand. It lets you loose in the unknown and expects you to survive. The combat is dense, heavy, and demands precision. Each weapon has real impact, and the animations are long, which reinforces the sense of weight and risk in every action. Enemies are varied and aggressive, and the battles require reading their movements, managing stamina, and, most importantly, patience. Die. Go back. Try again. Learn. Nothing here is given to you, and winning means understanding the game, and the world's rules the hard way. The setting impresses with its scale and strangeness. Endless towers, metallic forests, organic passages. Everything seems designed to make you uncomfortable and curious at the same time. Even with technical limitations, the game conveys a very distinct sense of place, where beauty and ruin coexist. The game doesn't try to make things easier. It challenges you, confuses you, and then rewards you with moments that feel ripped from the decay. And that's what makes them memorable. In 12th place, we have a game that delivers psychological horror, a retro aesthetic, and a fragmented narrative that lingers in your mind long after the credits roll. Signalis is a tribute to classic survival horror, but with its own identity, blending science fiction, symbolism, and paranoia into a dense and atmospheric experience. You play as a replica technician searching for your missing partner, exploring a frozen facility full of secrets, monsters, and echoes of a broken story. The structure recalls old-school games, limited inventory, environmental puzzles, labyrinthine maps, and tense combat with scarce resources. The fixed camera and carefully chosen angles heighten the sense of claustrophobia. Every new room is a gamble. It could contain the piece you need or a deformed creature ready to finish you off. The tension doesn't come from speed but from silence, strangeness, cryptic messages left in corners, and the constant feeling that something is too wrong to be explained. The art direction focuses on stylized pixel art and striking colors that contrast with the emptiness of the metallic corridors. The minimalist, cutting soundtrack helps build a sense of total isolation. Signalis doesn't hand out answers easily. It leaves traces, gaps, symbols, and uncomfortable ideas that accumulate gradually. The impact lies precisely in what the game doesn't fully reveal, in the symbols, the gaps in the story, and the oddness that grows with each new discovery, as if something important is always just out of reach. In 13th place, we have a game that mixes story, suffering, and survival in a touching and cruel narrative at the same time. A Plague Tale: Innocence puts you in control of two siblings fleeing the Inquisition and trying to survive in a plague-ravaged France. But the biggest enemy isn't just the soldiers or the plague. It's the rats, thousands of them, moving like a living mass, devouring everything not protected by light. It's an intimate journey, yet grand in impact. The gameplay focuses on stealth and intelligent use of the environment. You don't face enemies head-on. You need to distract, escape, hide. Using light as a weapon, manipulating the rats, solving small puzzles, and guiding your brother carefully creates a constant feeling of fragility. The pacing is well built, alternating moments of silent tension with desperate escapes, all woven together by an emotionally charged narrative. The setting is a character in itself. Destroyed villages, abandoned castles, dark forests, and battlefields filled with corpses create a backdrop that reinforces the weight of the journey. The art direction is impressive, and every new location brings not only danger, but melancholic beauty. A Plague Tale: Innocence stands out for how it balances horror and humanity, building a real bond between the protagonists and placing the player in front of decisions and losses that hit without shouting. In 14th place, we have a game that takes Souls-like action to outer space, blending decadent science fiction, cosmic horror, and punishing combat. Hellpoint takes place on a space station corrupted by interdimensional forces, where time, reality, and sanity mix in an unstable way. You wake up without memories, guided only by vague instructions and mysterious symbols, in a hostile world that seems to have been abandoned by any known logic. The combat is heavy and technical, focusing on dodging, endurance, and mastering weapons, each with distinct movements and characteristics. The difference lies in the progression system. The station orbits a black hole, and certain events and enemies appear or change according to the astronomical cycle. This creates an interesting dynamic that encourages exploration at different times and makes the experience less predictable. The environment is cold, labyrinthine, and full of shortcuts, secrets, and traps. The setting feels like a futuristic Dark Souls, but with its own identity. Industrial sectors, alien temples, and hallways filled with unknown horrors make up a backdrop where everything seems in ruins. Hellpoint is direct in its difficulty, but it's also strange, unpredictable, and engaging. Every door opened, every creature faced, carries an unease that can't be explained. It's only felt. In 15th place, we have a game that mixes political intrigue, fantasy, and choices with real consequences in a fictional colonial universe. GreedFall delivers a narrative centered around alliances, cultural conflicts, and a newly discovered continent, filled with mysteries, magical creatures, and tensions between warring nations. You play as a diplomat with the freedom to decide how to deal with factions and their dilemmas, by force, persuasion, or manipulation. The world is divided into large zones that, while not forming a continuous open map, offer plenty of room for exploration. Cities, forests, caves, and villages make up a varied landscape, with careful design and rich historical and cultural environments. Interactions with characters directly influence the story's progression, and the reputation system with each group opens or closes narrative paths. Combat combines firearms, swords, magic, and alchemy, allowing you to craft a playstyle that suits your preferences. Character progression is flexible, and the companion system resembles the best narrative RPGs, with specific dialogues, personal quests, and relationships that develop over time. GreedFall doesn't try to reinvent the genre but delivers a solid, well-written experience, full of tough decisions, those that linger even after you turn off the game. In 16th place, we have a game where speed, precision, and adrenaline mix in a vertical and merciless cyberpunk world. Ghostrunner is pure movement. You are a cybernetic warrior running through a dystopian tower controlled by a tyrannical intelligence, and each level is a test of reflexes and execution. Die. You're back in a second, and you die again. The pace is intense, and the game doesn't wait for you. It demands you keep up. Each scenario is designed as a deadly obstacle course. Walls to run on, armed enemies, lasers, traps. Everything can kill you in one hit. But you also kill in one hit. The balance is perfect, the challenge is tough but fair, and learning comes the hard way. Movement is at the heart of the game, with a fluid system that lets you combine running, dodging, and attacking almost like choreography. The aesthetic blends brutalism with neon, creating a dirty yet stylish industrial look. The electronic soundtrack drives the pace even further, making each combat encounter feel like a frantic dance. Ghostrunner doesn't give you time to overthink. It puts you in motion and expects you to follow. And when you nail a perfect sequence of movements and eliminations, the feeling is unreal. Everything becomes pure instinct. In 17th place, we have a game that transforms the French Revolution into a stage for automatons, mystery, and intense action. Steelrising reimagines history with a Paris dominated by a legion of deadly machines, where you control Aegis, a mechanical warrior with precise and graceful movements. The plot blends politics, conspiracy, and supernatural elements in an alternate version where kings command armies of gears and terror. The combat follows the path of challenging action RPGs, focusing on dodging, stamina, and rhythm. Aegis can be shaped with different weapons and styles, from piercing fans to heavy armaments, which completely changes the approach to battles. Bosses are memorable, both visually and mechanically, and the game rewards those who observe, adapt, and persist until mastering the flow of combat. The areas are interconnected and filled with secondary paths, shortcuts, and secrets. The setting impresses by blending classical architecture with the mechanical surrealism of the enemies. Cathedrals, palaces, sewers, and destroyed streets create a backdrop that carries both historical weight and visual creativity. Steelrising doesn't innovate in all areas but delivers an intriguing world, a well-built combat system, and a protagonist that stands out for both her visual appeal and fluid action. In 18th place, we have a game that swaps frantic gunfire for real-time strategy and high-risk decisions. Alien's Dark Descent brings the terror and tension of the iconic franchise into a new format, where every movement counts and every mistake could cost an entire squad's life. The story follows a group of Marines trying to survive and contain a xenomorph infestation in a space colony, with a constant sense that nothing is under control for long. The structure resembles tactical games, but with a looser rhythm. You command a squad in real time, but can pause the action to plan calmly. Positioning, silence, resource management, and preparation are more important than shooting everything in sight. The xenomorphs are unpredictable, deadly, and relentless, and the sense of vulnerability never fades. Each mission requires detailed planning, and even victories come with scars. Between missions, there's a base management system where you treat the wounded, research upgrades, and decide how to move forward. The world is oppressive, dark, and full of tight corridors, perfect for setting up ambushes and creating genuine scares. Dark Descent stands out by bringing back the tactical horror atmosphere and placing you in the role of a commander in a silent war against an enemy that never stops. It's not about winning with brute force, it's about escaping alive with whatever you've got. In 19th place, we have a game that mixes 2.5D action, dieselpunk aesthetics, and a city under oppression and resistance. Forged in Shadow Torch places you in the role of an unlikely hero, a rabbit with a mechanical arm, fighting against a military force that has turned your home into an authoritarian regime. Despite the unusual premise, the game delivers a solid Metroidvania, with dynamic combat, varied environments, and progression that encourages exploration of every corner. Torch City is a vertical labyrinth filled with secrets, hidden passages, challenging platforms, and enemies that demand attention. As you progress, You unlock new abilities and equipment that not only expand your combat options, but also open previously inaccessible routes. Exploration is rewarding, and the sense of mastering the map grows with each new return to an old area with new tools. The combat system is fast, technical, and visually striking. Combos, dodges, charge attacks, and the swapping between different types of mechanical arms create a range of possibilities that keeps the rhythm always interesting. The bosses have memorable designs and require reading and adaptation. Forged in Shadow, Torch impresses with how well-polished and cohesive it is, both in gameplay and setting. It's a game that knows exactly what it wants to be and delivers it with a lot of personality. In 20th place, we have a game that blends war, sabotage, and noir style in a Paris occupied by the Nazis. The Saboteur offers a stylized, open world, where you take on the role of an Irish rebel infiltrator, using clandestine tactics to weaken enemy control. The story mixes personal vengeance with acts of resistance, and while it follows a classic line, it's the style in which everything is presented that grabs attention from the very beginning. The key difference lies in the art direction. The areas controlled by the Nazis appear in black and white, with few color details, while the liberated zones gain color, life, and movement. This visual shift is not just aesthetic. It reinforces the feeling of real progress as you sabotage installations, eliminate officers, and inspire revolts. The city is divided into districts, and exploration on foot, by car, or by scaling buildings allows for multiple approaches. The gameplay combines direct gunfights with stealth and explosive moments. Planting bombs, infiltrating disguised, causing distractions, or simply acting as an agent of chaos are all viable options. There's also a notoriety system, where the bolder your actions, the harsher the enemy response. The Saboteur may have slipped under the radar for many, but it offers a unique setting, varied mechanics, and a stylized charm that easily sets it apart from much larger productions. Moving on, we have a game that turns dark fantasy into a twisted tale, where innocence and madness walk hand in hand. Alice Madness Returns is a reimagining of the classic Alice in Wonderland, but with a heavy psychological approach and striking visuals. The story follows Alice dealing with deep trauma as she returns to a wonderland that reflects her fears, pains, and fragmented memories. Each stage is a dive into themes like guilt, repression, and identity. The structure follows a third-person action and platforming style, with fast combat and exploration sections that emphasize both visual appeal and a variety of mechanics. Weapons like a peppermill machine gun or a toy horse hammer mix the grotesque with the playful in an inventive way. The enemies have surrealistic designs, and the bosses often represent distorted concepts, such as repression and abuse, presented in a symbolic and impactful manner. The standout feature is the art direction. Every environment reflects Alice's mental state, and the transitions between zones show just how fragile and unstable her internal world has become. Floating palaces, doll factories, submerged ruins, all carry a sickly beauty that captivates the eye. The game delivers much more than combat or platforming. It offers a dense, uncomfortable, and visually unforgettable experience, capable of marking those who let themselves be drawn into the carefully crafted madness. And I want to know from you, which of these games have you played, and what's your recommendation for a hidden gem that deserves more recognition? If you can, please subscribe to the channel to help me grow and never be unsure what to play again. I'm leaving 2 videos on the card, one I selected for you and another that YouTube picked. Just click on either one to watch. A big hug, happy gaming, and see you tomorrow.